systems nominal.
My fellow mech enthusiasts, welcome back. I'm your Lance Commander Zero Sum, and this is Heavy Gear 2. This is Activision's follow-up to their 1997 release of Heavy Gear, which I covered in a previous video. And that video got such a great response, first of all, thank you all for that, that when people started asking me, are you going to cover Heavy Gear 2? Are you going to cover Heavy Gear 2? Well, you know, I was, but okay, I'm going to do this sooner than I thought, probably. So, this game was released subsequently in June of 1999, but unfortunately it wasn't supposed to. This was originally scheduled for autumn 1998, and is going for the whole new engine, whole new storyline, more advanced than the Terra Nova timeline. But unfortunately, they ran into some problems. They put out a really great demo that got a lot of attention, critical notice, but unfortunately used up a lot of their resources, and thanks to some unexpected turnover in their team, they simply did not have the time to release it at that point. So it was delayed, and then delayed again, until finally releasing in June of 1999. But by then, the marketing campaign just could not keep up awareness, and even worse, Dynamics put out Star Siege, and Zipper Interactive put out MechWarrior 3 in the meantime. So while this game got a whole bunch of critical praise, it sold terribly. By the end of 1999, it had only sold 30,000 copies about. So, as you can imagine, that gave Activision some serious cold feet, and a subsequent game that was supposed to be developed by Savage Entertainment for Heavy Gear 3 was cancelled. All that's left is now a little bit of concept art that was made, and some descriptions. One of the things you would have been able to do is to fight outside of your gear, a la Titanfall and the like, which would have been pretty good. You could have done this. You could probably have used this engine for this. This engine was eventually used for Interstate 82. Which also included, stuff where you're fighting on foot as opposed to only being in your vehicle. The previous game, Heavy Gear 1997, also served as the basis, engine-wise, for another, the previous Interstate game. I think Interstate 76, I think it was called. So, there's some interesting continuity there. Sadly, that's just, that was the end of also, not just Heavy Gear franchise with Activision, but also their Mech Sim franchise. They were the ones who did those original MechWarrior 2 games and Heavy Gear, and, well, unfortunately after that, they just didn't continue in that direction, which is too bad, because they had some talent for it, that's for sure. Well, in any case, so in terms of background, this game takes place several years after the events of the first game, although it's completely unrelated. In Terra Novan year 1939, the city-estate of Peace River, which served as kind of like a major arms dealer for all the different sides of the interpolar conflict, gets annihilated by an antimatter device, as we're going to see, as you see if you start a new campaign. There's a nice little cutscene where you're seeing the whole city get obliterated. In response, investigations are launched, and what appears to originally be somebody from the Badlands doing some sabotage turns out to be a result of the New Earth government using what's left behind elements of the Colonial Expeditionary Force to sabotage and soften up Terra Nova for a subsequent invasion. So, certain peace treaties are signed, certain alliances made, and the first Strike Recon Black Talon teams are put together, of which you are going to be, or in this case me, are going to be the commander of, sent off to investigate and do some serious damage to the CEF forces, both on Terra Nova and on the neighboring planet of Caprice, which is right between Terra Nova and Earth in terms of gate travel. So, single player, multiplayer, various game options. I'm running this off of the same repack that I mentioned in the previous game. Right now, basically, this game runs extremely well. There are still obviously tweaks being done to it, to this day, but as of this moment, early 2023, this is about as great as this game is able to run on modern systems. I'm running it in administrator mode so I can actually listen to the music as well, although I find that maybe makes the game a little bit more unstable. It's hard to say. Suffice to say, there's going to be a couple of, occasionally the game might crash or something like that, but it runs incredibly well. There's just one thing. Do not touch graphics. Whatever you do, you can change the control configuration, you can change sound. Do not go into the graphics menu. Ever. Bad idea. Any kind of tweaks to that, you do that through the DigiVoodoo attachments or things that are in the repack. Do not go into this. You've been warned. Alright, so enough of that. single player. You have multiple different campaigns here. You got the training missions, as you can imagine, instant action, which is allow you to pilot a wide variety of gears, not just the ones that you have in the regular campaign, but also a whole massive variety of. Well, I can just show it off here. A massive variety from all throughout the heavy gear setting. So, like, if I select like heavy gears, I got these ones from the campaign, and then all these other ones that are just made from various factions on Terra Nova. So you've got a lot of variety in terms of if you want to just the instant action stuff. You don't even run into many of these mechs. You're not even going to run into during the campaign, except, of course, if you go back, boom, the historical missions, which are kind of like background. Setting background here, especially these ones. These ones came with are fan-made. They came with the repack. But like Eric Oil Disputes, the St. Vincent's War, Outer City, Peace River Army. This is from the invasion, the first CEF invasion. Yeah, see, Bill CEF invaders from Terra Nova in the autumn of 1716. The Badlands enter the conflict. So these are all like very interesting little glimpses into the past of Terra Nova, into the background of the setting. But we're going to be taking a look at the campaign here. So let's see. Which one do I want to pick here? Let's go for... Astro doesn't really matter. So when you create a new pilot, for instance, here, you select a name and you select which gear you're going to be using throughout the entire campaign. Now, in the heavy gear universe, most gear pilots don't switch up their gears very much, except in extremely rare circumstances. They're trained throughout their entire career on a particular type of vehicle that they're going to be using, because each one of these things has their own particular quirks and stuff, and it's pretty difficult to cross-train, apparently. So whichever one of these you pick, you're stuck with for the entire campaign. So you definitely want to pick something that works for the way you want to play from the get-go. A cheetah is not going to be very good at duking it out close quarters with, the tank or something like that, because these things are designed for scouting and speed. Versus a Kodiak here, which is the big boy, slow, lots of armor, lots of weapons, but you're definitely going to want to make sure you've got some cover from your other squad mates, otherwise you are going to be a sitting duck. So it's important to be very careful. So let's load up a game here. Let's go hidden CF base. So, how does this work out? You go into each mission in turn. You have your intel, of course, for each mission.
Commander, we've run satellite sweeps of the entire region, but we haven't come up with anything. The CEF installation must be equipped with infrared masks, or better. We've spotted a skirmish patrol nearby. I'm transferring the images now. Intercept the patrol, and you should be able to tail them to the base. I'll transmit additional information in the field.
That's our intelligence officer. He's the one who gives us our mission briefings for the most part. So we get our location, time of day, number of squad mates we're allowed, our objectives, and a pretty in-depth description of both the mission and any background we got. In this case, our first missions involved discovering a Grell officer who was willing to give us the information in exchange for clemency. And from there, we ambushed another one, leader amongst their people, in exchange for which we got the information on where the CF hidden base was on Terra Nova, from which the attack took place. There's a lot of cloak and dagger, intelligence, reconnaissance. This game has a very commando behind enemy lines kind of feel to it, especially once we get to Caprice, the next planet here. Here we're still on Terra Nova for this mission. So, from here, you select your current squad. Depending on the mission, you'll have a certain number of squad mates you can bring with you. And in all cases, as you can see below the briefing, current squad threat, max squad threat. As we're going to see when we get into the modified gears section, you do no longer have the same kind of gear modification system we had in the first one, where you could build a gear from scratch. Obviously can't do that because I'm stuck with the Dark Warrior up there. And also, you no longer have the whole drag and drop, fine-tune each component kind of system that they had there, which I think is, disappointing a little bit, because I happen to really like that system. But going into this and going more into detail, examining things, there is a lot of depth to the customization in this one. Now, as with the previous game, you can't customize your squad's gears, but you can select from the different
Lieutenant Keiji Kage.
different varieties of them. Each one with its own weapons and stat loadout, and each one with its own threat level. Your threat level is determined by your superiors, depending on the mission you're going into, and it will determine exactly how much stuff you can bring with you. So, if I bring this Kirin here, switch it to a Kusanagi. This one is 3624 in terms of threat level. If we
Lieutenant Keiji Kage.
Yeah. We go to modify gear just to take a look at it here. Comes with a pair of heavy anti-aircraft cannons. These are basically like, Gatling guns. A field mortar, heavy hand grenades, rapid fire bazooka, and vibro rapier. This game has melee in a mech sim in 1999. Long before MechWarrior 5 ever even got into it. I mean, MechWarrior 5 didn't get melee until the second DLC. So that should say something. We'll get to these when I start modifying my own gear. But you can see here, you've got not only the ability to just punch things in the face with your mech, but also equip various, melee weapons that do greater damage, which is good when you run out of ammo for everything else here. Also, perks and flaws that determine certain capabilities, your attributes of sensors, maneuvers, and stuff like that. We'll get into that in a bit more detail. Unfortunately, I can't here, so I have to switch them back to the Kirin configuration. Or go into the squad detail and replace Kage here with another character. So we have a certain number of squad members. We have room for more that we're going to recruit as we go forward. Each one of these has their own background, their own voice lines, and depending on the squad members that you bring with you on a mission, they'll have little things to say depending on at certain points, which will vary, so it gives a bit more replay value if you want to hear what everybody's got to say. Each one of these guys and gals has their own military specialties, their own background, reasons for getting into the squad, and their own personalities. Some of these characters are far more aggressive than others, like Mayo here, and Sobek, especially Sobek.
Soldat Leo Sobek.
Decorated pilot. Yeah, Soldat is basically like private in French. He's from the Southern League, so not the Republican Army, which means that their titles and stuff and designations are in French. Yeah. Once a decorated pilot, now he's prisoner 0364562, freshly transferred from Labor Camp 27. Committed grievous crimes while serving the Iron Defense and was court-martialed. He is basically the, he's the Team Psycho, basically. Extreme missions of total destruction or assassination are his specialty. Potential time bomb waiting to explode. Yeah, he's a fun guy. Yeah, Dark Cobra, pilots at Dark Cobra. The Dark series are the specialized upgraded gears. Basically, the Black Talons use standard gears because they didn't really have time to develop brand spanking new ones, with upgrades to their actuators, stealth systems, sensors, all that stuff. And that's the Dark series. Let's go with him, Mayo, and Wallace. And then we can just start boosting up their
Lieutenant Boyden Wallace.
Templar. Ah, damn it. His stuff is a little bit too... But Kodiak is like a pretty badass gear, so unfortunately getting it to those points is pretty dangerous. So let's just go back to having Kage there. Instead. And just keep him in his Kirin there, I guess. So, as I was saying, you no longer have the whole system where you're just, modifying things out as you go along. Instead, yeah, we can go here. So the Kirin here, as we saw, comes with a medium anti-aircraft cannon default, medium rocket pack 36, medium bazooka, vibro blade, vibro rapier. If I want to go for the Hachiman, which is the nastier one, heavy pulse laser cannon, anti-gear missiles. These things are nasty. Two of them mounted on the shoulders. An additional heavy pulse laser cannon, and a Gatling laser cannon for really rapid fire pew-pew, and vibro rapier. So, you can carry more handheld weapons than you could in the previous game. They're basically like attached to hard points on your hips that you can switch out. And there is a difference between weapons that are attached to hardpoints on your shoulders and the ones in your hands. Switching out the ones in your hands takes a lot more time than just, right-clicking and switching out to another weapon on that's currently equipped on your gear for active use. Which means there is an advantage to not only switching out, well, let me just show you. So I've got here the Beast, which is a custom design I made. So you can actually mount handheld weapons onto your shoulder, right onto your collar hardpoints as well. So I've got a medium autocannon on my right collar, the Gatling laser here on my left, and a rapid-fire bazooka on the handheld. Threat is 4,439, so I won't be able to use the Beast on anything like here. Not to mention I've done some serious modifications to the sensors and stuff like that, which you can also modify. Now, let's go here for scars. You have access here. There's no more combat priority like there was in the previous game. You're in a special task force, so you have access to every single weapon from the start. The only difference is how much can you fit in terms of the threat value. So like if I want to put a light guided mortar here on my right shoulder, which would seriously increase my threat level, gives you your stats on these things: damage heavy, low velocity cannon that lobs the warheads in an arcing overhead trajectory. Once the warhead clears the barrel, small fins extend from the back, allowing for a limited control of the mortar's flight path. It's a guided warhead and requires a lock-on to function. The guided weapons, the indirect fire weapons, work a lot better in this game than they do in the previous one. I'll say this, the guided mortars especially are really, really handy. Like, you can just lob these things right up into the sky and they just drop straight down. They're great against tanks. Now, you can also adjust the ammunition count on all these weapons. As you can see, it adjusts the threat level up there. More ammo, higher threat. So let's remove this because I'm not going to be able to use it. So that's basically how that works. The more offensive, defensive, and miscellaneous, as you can see here, points you have based on your different stats, the higher your threat level, and the more chances you're not going to bring this thing out for early missions. Let's just bring out, let's say, the Garen here. Actually, let's bring out the Kusanagi so I can demonstrate some stuff here. So your attributes can also be modified. Instead of going into the individual parts and messing around with here, you got all your things here: sensor rating, maneuverability, armor, fire control, which I have to make a mea culpa from the previous video. I kept saying the backup fire control in there was to prevent fires from breaking out in your gear. It's not. This is what gives you basically a targeting reticle in your HUD. So yeah, whoops, I should have misspoke on that previous video, but I was correct in the comments, so that's fine. Movement speed and the secondary movement system, which is the gears, wheels, or treads that are on their feet that you can use for extra speed. These things can be tweaked as well, as you can see. Now, here's some really cool stuff. Let's say sensor rating here. I just put it down to minimum. I have no more sensors. I can literally go into a fight with nothing. Or start turning on, okay, cameras. Low light vision is possible now. Infrared, ultraviolet, radar, laser rangefinder, so you can actually tell the distance from targets. Thermographic, ultrasound, motion detection, LiDAR, magnetic resonance. The more advanced your sensor you put it on, the more higher the grade of your sensor rating, the more different functionalities your sensors get, and the better your ability to detect the enemy in the field, even though they might also have stealth systems, which can make that far more difficult. So let's bring this down to... That should be okay here. I want to try and get these things down. Maneuverability here determines how easily you can take turns. So, the lower it is, the more ponderous your vehicle is, and the harder it is to deal with rough terrain and fast turns at speed. Armor rating, I think it's pretty obvious what that does. The higher, thicker your armor, the more damage you can take. Fire control, this is when it's interesting. If I turn this thing down to 0, so your computer's ability to calculate velocity and range of your target, as well as compensate for field variables. Low negative numbers can mean a bare sight on the barrel of your gun. Basically, at -5, you just get your basic HUD. That's it. Nothing else. And then you start gaining... This here tells you how your speed and the compass. At the -5 level, you don't even get to know where north is. You have to figure that out. Then weapon readings. At this point, you can actually see your weapons on your HUD. Locking reticle. Here's the point where you actually get a targeting reticle that you can use to aim with. Enemy range, enemy speed, enemy ID. Now you can actually tell what you're shooting at. Leading reticle. Here's things getting expensive. This one will actually put a little extra targeting reticle that you can aim to, determined by the enemy's movement, predicted movement and speed. So you can actually make sure that weapons that don't have, hit scan, like lasers, more like projectile weapons, autocannons, and missiles and stuff, can actually hit their targets better. And this one will actually tell you the enemy armor rating. And that jacks up your threat to, oh boy, 17,000 on this one. So, yeah. That is pretty potent. Movement speed, obviously. So, that's here. Let's accept this. Now, perks and flaws. This is also interesting. Modify item. So you got a whole bunch of different perks and flaws that you can use. So manipulator arms, you can pick stuff up. The higher the arm is rated, the more damage it does when punching. Also note, increasing the rating of a manipulator arm will increase the vehicle's offensive threat value. So yeah, punching stuff, the better the rating here on your arm, more damage, and the higher your threat value. Stealth systems. Combination of many different systems that make the vehicle more difficult to detect with sensor systems. Obvious, way the higher it is, the harder you are to spot. There is a lot of stealth in this game for a mech game, which shouldn't be surprised considering this is very much a command, a Dirty Dozen or Guns of the Navarone, or that kind of behind enemy lines commando stuff is happening here. 0G, there are 0G levels in this game, 3 of them. Submersive, you can go underwater. Enhanced reinforced front armor. Sniper systems allow for zooming. Now, here's the other thing. Flaws. You can give yourself some problems also. Hazardous ammo fuel storage. Poorly armored, poorly designed, they'll tend to explode if you're not careful. Actually, I should probably... Okay. The sniper system back there. ECM is also useful because it helps to block enemy sensors. There's also ECCM to unblock enemy unblock your sensors when an enemy's using this. So there's a bit of a tug of war going between those things. Going back to this, you can have a larger sensor profile, which can't be used with stealth, of course. Fragile chassis, exposed fire control that makes it more likely you'll suffer critical hits to that. Same thing for exposed auxiliary systems. Defective fire control and sensors means that occasionally your sensors and fire control are just going to stop working for a little bit. So that can be a bit irritating. And also you can put weaker armor in certain areas. Vulnerable to haywire, can cause damage from EM weapons. So I'm going to switch out. So let's go back here. So there is a lot you can do with all these things. You can recreate basically, especially in the instant action and multiplayer modes where you can select from a wider variety of gears, you can create some seriously overpowered glass cannons by just laying on the flaws and using the resulting bonus points to just really lay on the serious firepower, if you know what you're doing. Although I wouldn't recommend laying on too much of this, too many flaws, because you're going to end up with some serious problems. So let's see, I'm just going to go with the, I guess, Kirin, or, yeah, I can't go with the Kusanagi, unfortunately, unless I guess, reduce some of the, yeah. If I take the heavy anti-aircraft cannons off, replace them with medium anti-air cannons, which I tend to like a little bit better simply because they can pack way more ammunition. Yeah. There we go. And grenades. Remove item. Don't really use the grenades all that much. Light field mortar. Put the light guided mortar instead. Yeah. And rapid fire bazooka is pretty good. Alright. And instead, we're going to put this one, we're going to put both of these on the collars. So they're easier to get to. There we go. So that leaves the rapid fire bazooka we'll be carrying in our hands. This is the light guided mortars going on our shoulder, and the Gatling guns are going on our collars. So we're going to accept this, and it puts us just enough in that happy little zone. You can give your specialized gears a special name too if you want. And we're under both max threat per gear and max threat for the entire squad. So we're good to go. And loading up. So the Black Talons, of which this is their icon here, well, their logo, so to speak, for the regiment, are especially put together by the combined might of both the major leagues of Terra Nova to act as a recon and strike force to deal with the problem of the Earth forces that are currently on Terra Nova and under
Talon Command, this is Morgan. Forward team is away. The mission is a go.
And also abroad,
right,
as we'll see.
Let's do this.
So already you can see that this game has been seriously upgraded in terms of visuals. If I switch over to...
I'm reading a patrol to the north. You should be able to spot them at the end of this canyon.
Yeah, will do. So already you can see that these gears look a lot better than in the previous game. They create a whole new engine for Heavy Gear 2 called the Dark Side engine. And the weather's already pretty bad. So I'm currently on passive sensors. I can switch to active sensors, but as you can see from the stealth meter there, I'm a lot more easy to detect. There is a lot of sneaking around in this game. In fact, there are certain missions where it's pretty much demanded of you. This one starts out that way and then goes to full-on action later on, so it's a pretty good demonstration. So let's see, we got our light guided mortar. This requires you to have active sensors on to use. So, and here we go.
There they are. Just hang back. We'll follow them home.
Now, so we're gonna follow these guys to their base. Put on secondary motion systems, just get through there a bit easier. So if I switch back here, and they actually follow me. The squad is really, really good at imitating what you're doing. If you put on your SMS, they're going to put on your SMS and follow you at the same speed. Gotta make sure I don't lose these guys. And they are really good at receiving commands, of which there are a good number. I can just, give them not only just the usual kind of attack, regroup, defend a target, stand your ground kind of thing, go to checkpoints, but combat settings. I can determine their kind of engagement, so return fire. I can for the entire squad, or I can do it for particular fire groups, either the first two squad members or the second two. I can also give them the different set formations and tactics. Do they want to do the leave them be, or tell them to assault the targets from the front, flank, all these kinds of things. Oop. But that's not all. At any time, I can go to my tactical map and not only have an entire new set
At the ready.
of advanced orders to give to these guys, including, targeting and stuff like that, but I can actually go across the entire map to lead down my own checkpoints or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the entrance we want, all right.
Military intelligence was right for once. The
There we go.
CEF is still on Terra Nova.
Patrol is at the base entrance.
And we can follow them from here. Alright. Water's not bad, but... Oop. Let's jump out. Yes, you can jump in this game. You can also, if I switch to this, kneel, and even go prone. Which does wonders for, as you can see, from my stealth systems. Incidentally, if anything on the HUD starts changing colors, it means it's taking damage. So if I systems actually start getting damaged, like for instance my mobility systems, I can get stuck in a particular position, which can be, pretty bad, as you can imagine. I once had my torso stuck facing this direction because I took a critical hit to that area and was unable to turn back. So I was stuck for the short time I had left to live. I was stuck facing the wrong direction whenever I moved.
The base seems to be a pretty standard CEF setup. They must have a communications array tied into their security systems. If you destroy that first, we'll make the base assault go easier. I've got a heavy microwave signature on the ridge to your west.
Alright, let's do that then. And we're going to have problems going forward, so let's turn on this. Here we go. Squad, attack closest target.
Understood.
So these are the CEF's mainstay hover tanks. They use like turbofans to hover above the ground, and so that way they can be used on pretty much any planet, regardless of the terrain. And you can see there the amount of awareness the... Oh. One thing I love about this game is the infantry blows up real good.
Peace River!
Let's destroy this bunker here.
Pretty hard to miss that thing.
Ooh, see what I mean about them blowing up? Beautiful. And things go destroy like that. Fall apart pretty well. Alright. And let's see what happens when you hit these guys with a mortar. Boom. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, let's see. So lock on with the mortar here. As in the previous game, you can strafe when you're not using the SMS system. Okay, I don't think I'm able to... Is that the actual bunker, or... Okay, the bunker's over here then. Oh no, it's this one. There we go. I was actually hitting it. Alright, you guys, full squad, attack my target. Gotta destroy this comms array.
One down.
There we go.
Player ready.
Alright, let's go find that secondary antimatter device. So let's head to the main compound. Your squad is actually very, very good at following your orders. The different, characters have different ways of doing it, so like somebody like Sobek or Mayo is actually far more aggressive in attacking everything, and they're best for those kinds of missions. Versus other characters like Pulciano and others, who are far more... You can actually see the... There we go.
No hard feelings.
Oh, thank you for destroying that hoverboard. Yeah. Oh, and there you go. See that? The mortar actually changing directions. I love the mortars in this game. They're less useful in 0G, obviously, because, well, they can't really target as easily. But against these hover tanks, they're really good. The CEF uses these guys a lot. Beyond these, there's also... Oh, cargo truck. Beyond these, you'll also encounter Caprice's particular versions of mechs, called mounts, which are a completely different kind of thing, more quadrupeds and hexapods, versus the humanoid vehicles that Terra Novans came up with. Based on the same kind of technology, this is something I like about the Heavy Gear universe, is that each one of the planets and civilizations came up with different ways of waging war and using the means at their disposal. So like both the Capricians and the Terra Novans used repurposed mining gear as the source of their military vehicles, in this case gears and mounts, but they use completely different ones that they prefer based on the terrain and the kind of environment that they use. So instead of humanoid, it's quadrupeds for better stability in their kind of environment. Caprice is far more like a Martian, desolate world with a very, very thin atmosphere in most places, except for one place, which is a massive canyon called the Cat's Eye. You can tell from what it looks like from orbit, which is the major population center on Caprice. 50% of the population living there in what can best be described as a dystopian cyberpunk megacity, which is how the CEF managed to take control of it from their corporate government by basically threatening to drop rocks from orbit onto it until they did what they want. And having everybody concentrating that one spot didn't help. Let's keep smashing. Okay, well. HQ facility.
Will do. Will do. We want some more.
Nice
There
work,
we go.
people, but we're not done yet. We've got to find that antimatter device.
Damn right we do. Alright, so let's keep going here.
Oh, my senses are off the chart. There's something not at all natural inside this building. This has to contain the antimatter device.
If you don't understand it, kill it.
Indeed. Oh, we got some more infantry. Oh. Oh, wait. Oh. Sometimes the infantry will survive the initial hit and keep firing at you from prone. So you've got those moments where
No
these
hard
poor
feelings.
There we go. When these poor bastards will actually just keep firing at you from as they're dying.
Is that it? I was just getting interested.
There we go. Uh-oh. It's not over yet.
Commander, there's a small convoy of units attempting to flee the compound. My sensors indicate they may be carrying another antimatter device. They're heading right to you.
Not for long, they're not.
Looks like we missed a few of them. They're bugging out.
Great. Fresh meat.
Well, that should do it.
There we go.
Let's head back to the ship.
Never knew I'd hit him. The music is pretty
Extraction
good.
is moving in to pick you up. Out.
If they thought this would test us, they don't know who they're dealing with.
No, they do not. The music of this game is pretty good once I could get it working. It's not the same as the music in the first one, which is more like, electronic and rock. It's far more like, heavy military drums and brass to really give that whole military feel to it. And we get our debriefing here. We get kills, accuracy, casualties, and injuries. This is something that's very important. Your squad mates can get injured during these missions, at which point they won't be available for the next one, or they can die. You do recruit some new people once you're on Caprice, but if someone who dies and you wanted them back, they're not coming back, and from that point on, you can't use their particular model of gear also. So you're stuck with the people you have and the gears that they're trained with. So bear that in mind. You can replay the mission if you want, or continue from here.
Stand by, Fury. We're showing a power spike directly ahead.
And luckily also, the cutscenes don't require me to alter their resolution for the video, so that's
They're
nice.
sending another gate coffin through. Fury, you are clear for passage.
And there we go, that's our Fury-class dropship, which we'll be using to travel to Caprice and do our main missions there. But before we do any of that, we gotta deal with this gate ship right here. Currently in the Loki system, where the planet Caprice is, in the asteroid belt.
We need to seize this gate station and hold it for our return trip. When you reach the station, take out the communications modules, and do it fast. If we can destroy all 6 modules before they know we're here, we can get to Caprice unhindered.
Oh, that's our mission. This is the first of the zero-G space missions. So, Let's see here. Can I bring in the Beast? I can bring in the Beast. Nice.
Sergeant Antoine Maillot.
I can bring his Bayard model, or the... I guess slightly less. The Saint-Exupéry. No, I can't bring that one.
Sergeant Antoine Maillot.
Let's take a look at what this thing actually has to offer. Sniper laser cannon, anti-gear missiles. Lots of anti-gear missiles, actually. Snub cannon, which is basically a field artillery piece that they're carrying in their hands. Rapid fire bazooka. Nice stuff. Gotta love it. There's some serious firepower in this game, I'll tell you that much. So let's see. Bayard. Yeah, we can put the Bayard into most action. Let's see. Heavy guided mortar. Heavy grenade launcher. Hand grenade, bazooka. Okay, this one's the blow everything up model. I think I'm going to go instead with Kage, because his stuff tends to be a bit more laser focused. And lasers are very useful in space, because obviously there's no atmosphere to slow things down, and controls are already complicated enough that... Anyway, wait a minute. Controls are a bit more complicated in space, as you can imagine. There we go. Let's give him the Kusanagi. And I... Shaman? Slightly less. Let's go for the Kusanagi. Take a look. Yeah. Axe, LFM. I think that should be good. Alright. But unfortunately squad threat is a little bit too high. This is something that, you know, one thing that I do like is that when you look at the squad detail, you can see what your max squad threat is. If you go into modify gear, you can't see the max threat per gear notification, which is a bit annoying when you're finished modifying stuff and then you go back into this one and all of a sudden you need to go back into the gear lab in order to change stuff because you're over the limit. I wish they had added a max threat per gear into there. Another thing I kind of wish they had added was, well, not added, but done differently, is if we look at, you know, like the weapons here, modify. If instead of, you know, just tweaking the ammunition and stuff like that, which they also do for like the missiles, like the heavy rocket packs and stuff like that, which is kind of annoying because I like the fact that in the previous game, if you had a 24 round rocket pack, you had 24 rounds of rockets in your rocket pack, and that was all you get. The fact that you can now change that up, like, where are they storing those extra rockets? You know, like, if I'm piloting in an Atlas, I kind of don't ask myself, because there's usually, like, they're kind of built into their chassis, so you can kind of, like, see, okay, I can see there'd definitely be some storage for the missiles there in the left torso or something like that. But here, these things are not that big compared to your average battle mechs. So I always have to ask myself that question. But, you know, it is what it is. I would have actually preferred if instead you had the ability to stock up on extra reloads for your handheld weapons, for instance. You know, just pull out the magazine, slap a new one in, something like that. That would have actually been pretty cool. But, yeah, it is what it is. All in all, this game has an exceeding amount of customization. It's just, you know, hidden behind a different presentation, which, you know, requires some getting used to. And the other thing that requires getting used to is, of course, space fighting. Which makes me wonder if they were ever... Yeah, you can't go into space without our zero-gravity systems. That's true, I took mine off of this thing. Damn it. I'm gonna have to put that back on. At least it's nice enough to let me know that, so let's see. Alright, take off the backup fire control, I guess. And... yeah. Without the zero-gravity systems, you're out of luck. I think I'm going to be over the line. It was 4,500, so I have to go in here. Yeah, and here I'm going to have to reduce my fire control just a wee bit. And already that's, you know, massively improvement. Alright. Except... that's too bad. Having those extra reticles comes in handy. Alright. Space fighting. Which makes me wonder if they ever plan on doing a Jovian Chronicles setting game.
This is Morgan. I'm aboard the Fury. We're blocking the station's communications with a dampening field, but we've only got enough power for a few minutes. Take out all 6 comm modules while we're jamming them. They're located near the center of the gate station. I've given you a nav point to the communications hub.
When you say a few minutes, what are we talking about?
Maybe 5 at the most.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Commander, I'm detecting infantry on the surface of the station.
Alright, take out these laser turrets. There we go.
Job complete. Come on!
Okay, squad, attack closest
Right
target.
away.
So, you have to be aware of where you're facing,
Set.
because otherwise you're going to be going in the wrong direction
There are
very
feelings.
easily. Alright, so, okay, I need to where am I going?
Get set.
You can kind of see how it's very difficult to maneuver, possibly,
Come on!
because this has full Newtonian physics. If you push your thrusters in one direction, you're going to keep going in that direction
Come on!
until you stop.
Enemy engaged. No hard feelings.
There we go. Alright. Here's one of the
Enemy
communications
engaged.
array we need destroyed. You can also rotate yourself if you
Enemy
have,
engaged.
so I can actually turn myself around like this. I can strafe in space. Uh-oh. KG? Oh crap. I think KG either dead or injured. Because there's infantry, space infantry. There we go. Alright. Obliterated him. And him. Ooh, there's KG right there. I think he's still alive, hopefully. And I'm getting dangerously far away from my actual place they need to be. Alright. So as you can see, laser weapons have the advantage in space. They can shoot from very far away. And okay, we got more NEC infantry right over here. There we go. They do a significant amount of damage. And depending on what you're using, they can... Okay, I gotta take care of this one here. Where is it? Okay, determine... Where am I? Shit. Alright. Damn, it's really hard to navigate when you're zoomed in on things.
We should have around 3 more minutes before we lose the dampening field.
Yep. Come on.
The turrets have been destroyed. Nice work with those turrets. That'll neutralize the station's defensive capacity. A group of infantry is firing on the Fury from the station's surface.
Okay, I think I may have already taken care of them.
Location.
Did I already take care of them, or is there still more? Okay, no, we still got more of them. And they're all on me, so gotta zoom in on those. Alright. Let's slow down. Thrusters in the other direction. And
That's the last of the infantry.
there we go. Alright, so now we've got 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes, to take out the remaining comm arrays. Although we still got some infantry over here. Oh, he's floating in space. Nice. Poor guy. Can I take this guy out? This guy's hard to lock onto. There we go. Poor bastard. Okay, we still got those 2 comm modules to take out. Yeah, your normal movement for going forward and backwards is kind of instead for rotating forwards and backwards, so it takes some getting used to. And slow down.
Time's about up, Commander. The dampening field is going down in 60 seconds.
Oh crap, okay. I gotta take these things out fast.
All comm modules are down. The station is cut off. The receiving mechanisms are still functional. Assuming we make it back here, we should be able to get the gate open pretty quickly.
Here I am just floating around in space. Oh boy. Injuries 1. Alright. So from here we'd go back to
the gate station. Setting course for Caprice.
So that's why it's called the Cat's Eye
We
cannon.
should be safe from the orbital defense installations as long as we're broadcasting these civilian passage codes.
Beginning atmospheric descent. Prepare for burn.
So from here you make contact with the local resistance called the Liberati. You make do some attacks on prison camps, recon enemy bases, locate targets of interest for more intel on what the CEF is currently doing on the planet. Discover that they've been using captured gears from the previous war to build their own mechs, this is the first time that Terra Novans actually encounter Earth-made mechs called battle frames, as they call them. So here, yeah, capture and secure the area and stuff like that. And the missions are very much, there's a good variety of missions. Some of them more stealth-oriented, others are direct assaults on enemy positions, and you have that great amount of tactical strategy. I'm mispronouncing and saying things completely wrong, but you get my point. This plays a lot like if someone decided to make a Rainbow Six game with mechs. It has that same level of tactical gameplay where you're directing your squads, making up your fire teams, maybe sending one to one in one area, sending the other to another, and having them flank an enemy positioned in order to take them by surprise. You're doing recon at an enemy base in order to determine the best plan of attack. All this stuff is really great. Plus, you're floating around in zero-G, shooting at enemy ships and infantry crawling around on the surface of a space station while you're just going off in space. I mean, come on. How many mech games let you do that? Or at least, how many mech games of this type, which are normally ground-based, obviously, let you do that? I mean, the last time I saw a mission like this was probably in MechWarrior 2, Mercenaries, when you're on a big chunk of ice that's currently being flown to another planet to give them some much-needed water supplies, and you're shooting down aerospace assets and pirates from the surface of a giant space ice block. Which is pretty cool, so let's face it, but this is done so much better. This is one of those games that I really wish would get, if not a sequel, I wish somebody would look at the things that this game did and its predecessor and do stuff like this. Go for this kind of depth of customization. Like squad detail here. KG is currently injured. Having this kind of thing happen where your pilots not only have distinct personalities and AI that follows from that, but can also be injured or killed depending on the situation. I mean, come on, that is, like, as much as that can happen also in, say, MechWarrior 5, it doesn't have the same impact, because you can just go out and buy in, more mercs. Here, if these guys go, you just, gimp yourself a little bit for the rest of the game, because you're not getting these guys replaced. Well, these ones will get filled out later on by, prisoners of war that you liberate and stuff like that. And some Liberati pilots that may come and help you, but this guy, if he dies, he's gone. No more KG Garage, no more Sobek or Bolsiano, none of these people. So you have that incentive to keep them alive as much as possible, which is, pretty impressive. First Strike Recon Black Talon. Nice. And from there you also had the multiplayer as well, which was also pretty cool. They had this whole entire mode called strategy mode, where you had two separate bases with their own buildings, and each one with their own functionality. You had a headquarters that controlled automated turrets that were otherwise indestructible, and if you destroy that building, they shut down. You had ammo depots and repair bays for each side, and you had a comms relay that allowed all the different members of your team to share sensor data and allow the commander to use the tactical map to direct things and to give out commands. And if that building goes down, all those functions cease for the rest of the match. So that is already, pretty impressive for 1999. That's some great multiplayer mode right there. There's still people playing this game in multiplayer to this day. It's, difficult, obviously, but it is doable. This is something I really, really wish would get a proper remaster, at the very least just to get the technical bugs out of the way and have it run properly on modern systems out of the box with no need to change things up. This game is really, really good. And it even got its own RPG book, like from DreamPod 9, made in conjunction with this for the first edition of the Heavy Gear RPG, of all things, with stats for all your squad mates and everything. So that's something else to look forward to if you're into older RPGs like that, if you can find that. Heavy Gear 2. I mean, honestly, it's abandonware at this point, so there's nothing stopping you from getting this thing. Links to the repack for this and the first game will be in the description, as they were in the previous video. Honestly, this is very much worth playing, and if you had problems with the previous game getting that running, this one's a lot easier to get running. I find the story is a bit less compelling, simply because it's a bit more impersonal. Your character doesn't talk or anything like that. But it's got some good, it's got some great missions, and it flows really well. You're going to want to make sure that you do some training missions to get used to the zero-G stuff and, the command systems and all those things, because they can be a little bit difficult to use just, if you're not used to it in the middle of a fight. But yeah, this game is very much worth playing. Well, in any case, I've been Zero Sum. You can like, share, subscribe all you want, and you can join me again when I bring back MechWarrior Mondays coming later this month. Until then, I'm ejecting. Bye-bye.
All primary objectives complete. Mission successful.